one point, there may have been fewer than 1,000 humans left alive on the entire planet. Not 1,000 in one country, 1,000 total, everywhere, combined. We like to think humans were always destined to take over the planet, like it was inevitable, like nothing could have stopped us. But there's a growing pile of genetic evidence suggesting our species came terrifyingly close to disappearing completely, not once, but possibly more than once. We're talking about a population crash so severe that some scientists believe every single human alive today descended from a tiny surviving group that could fit inside a few school buses. So today we're looking at how humans almost went extinct, what nearly wiped us out, and how we somehow clawed our way back from the edge. The clue that something catastrophic happened isn't buried in some ancient bone. It's inside you, literally, right now, inside your own DNA. Human beings have astonishingly low genetic diversity compared to almost every other species on Earth, including our closest living relatives, chimpanzees. Two random chimpanzees from neighboring populations can have more genetic difference between them than two humans from opposite sides of the entire planet. That's bizarre. Genetic diversity usually builds up over time as a population grows and spreads out. Low diversity like this is a massive red flag, the kind of pattern scientists associate with something called a population bottleneck, a moment where a species' numbers crash so hard that almost everyone dies, and everyone alive today descends from the small handful who didn't. Geneticists studying this data have proposed that humans went through at least one and possibly several of these near-extinction events, and the numbers involved are almost impossible to wrap your head around when you consider where our species ended up. So what actually could have done this? What takes a species that eventually conquers the entire planet and nearly erases it completely? One of the leading theories involves a volcano. Around 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano called Toba, located in what's now Indonesia, erupted in one of the most powerful volcanic events in the last 2 million years. This wasn't a normal eruption. It's estimated to have thrown up enough ash and sulfur into the atmosphere to block out sunlight across huge parts of the planet for years. This theory, known as the Toba catastrophe theory, suggests the eruption triggered a volcanic winter, dropping global temperatures dramatically, collapsing food sources, and pushing already struggling human populations toward the brink. Some researchers have connected this event directly to that genetic bottleneck, arguing the eruption may have reduced the global human population down to just a few thousand individuals, scattered in isolated pockets, barely holding on. Now, this theory is genuinely controversial. Some scientists argue the population decline was already happening before Toba erupted, and the volcano gets too much credit. Others think the eruption made an already fragile situation catastrophically worse. But even critics of the theory agree on one thing. Something, somewhere, brought early humans terrifyingly close to disappearing. Comment below which theory you think is more likely. One massive disaster, or a slow collapse that almost finished us off. But a volcano alone doesn't explain everything, because the climate itself was working against early humans long before Toba ever erupted. Around this same general period, the planet was deep in the middle of harsh glacial cycles, long stretches of extreme cold that repeatedly reshaped where humans could actually survive. Massive ice sheets locked up water, sea levels dropped, and huge portions of the planet that once supported life became brutally difficult or completely impossible to live in. This meant early humans weren't spread evenly across the globe like we are today. Instead, some researchers believe our ancestors were squeezed into small, isolated refuges, pockets of livable land surrounded by hostile, freezing, resource-scarce environments. South Africa is one region scientists point to as a possible refuge based on both genetic and archaeological evidence. Being trapped in small, isolated groups like this is exactly the kind of condition that creates a genetic bottleneck, even without a single dramatic disaster. Small populations are fragile. Disease, food shortages, or even just a few unlucky seasons could wipe out an entire group permanently, and there was no neighboring population large enough to replace them. For a huge stretch of time, humanity's entire future may have depended on a small number of isolated groups clinging to survival in a handful of livable pockets scattered across an otherwise hostile planet. And somehow, from that fragile, scattered starting point, humans didn't just survive, they eventually filled the entire globe. So how did such a small, fragile population avoid disappearing completely? A big part of the answer seems to be adaptability and an unusually stubborn drive to keep pushing forward even when conditions were terrible. Archaeological evidence from this era shows increasingly sophisticated tool use, improved hunting strategies, and early symbolic behavior, things like engraved objects and use of pigment, suggesting complex thought and possibly early forms of communication and culture were developing even during this incredibly harsh period. Cooperation likely played an enormous role as well. Small, isolated human groups that shared resources, worked together, and supported injured or sick members had a far better chance of surviving harsh seasons than groups that didn't. This lines up with something we've seen across almost every stage of early human history. Cooperation wasn't just a nice trait, it was often the actual difference between a group surviving or disappearing entirely. Eventually, as the climate began to shift and conditions slowly improved, these surviving populations expanded outward again, spreading across Africa and eventually beyond it, carrying an entire species' future forward from what may have been just a few thousand people. It's a strange thing to sit with. Every single human being alive today, every language, every city, every war, every invention, all of it exists because a small, struggling population somehow didn't disappear when it easily could have. So, across every one of these, DNA that still carries the scars of a near collapse, a possible supervolcano that may have plunged the planet into darkness, harsh glacial cycles that squeezed early humans into a handful of isolated refuges, and a small, stubborn population that somehow adapted, cooperated, and pushed forward anyway. One thing stays consistent: humanity's existence was never guaranteed. We didn't inevitably rise to the top of this planet. We survived a genetic bottleneck so severe that our entire species may have hung on a thread held together by nothing more than a small group of humans who refused to disappear. Every person who has ever lived owes their existence to that group. If you want more videos digging into how ancient humans actually survived, not the sanitized textbook version, the real one, go ahead and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel keep making these. And let me know in the comments, if you'd been born into that surviving group, what do you think would have been the hardest part of staying alive? I'll see you in the next one.
Human beings have astonishingly low genetic diversity compared to almost every other species on Earth, including our closest living relatives, chimpanzees.